Want to stop her in her tracks before she even starts, officially at least. The Stop Hillary PAC is already out with its first ad attempting to take down the former Secretary of State's rumored run for the White House. And yes, there's still 1,203 days until the next election, just in case you're counting. Aaron McPike joins me now with more. And Aaron, this isn't just a preemptive strike. In Boston, we would call this a wicked preemptive strike.
Well, yes, but John, so much of America already knows all about Hillary Clinton and all of her ups and downs. And as one person very close to the Clintons told me, this may be a new ad, but it's an old trick. But whatever side you're on, get ready because it's getting ugly early. Republicans and Democrats alike expect Hillary Clinton to dominate in the 2016 presidential election, even though it's 3 years away and she hasn't given many hints about what she'll do. But in recent weeks, the anti-Clinton forces have been gathering steam.
Hillary Clinton.
A brand new group called Stop Hillary is releasing this provocative video today to stoke fears about a second Clinton presidency.
Do solemnly swear.
It dredges up old photos and controversies from her husband's administration in the 90s, including Whitewater, and ends with last year's attack on the U.S. mission in Benghazi, which happened on her watch as Secretary of State.
If you keep enough pressure on, if you keep raising questions about Benghazi, if you keep putting pressure on the relationship between her and her husband, if you keep trying to pick at her, you might exhaust her and you might get her to not run.
But there's no money behind this internet-only video that this grassroots group is pushing to go viral. The organization is entirely separate from Stop Hillary 2016, a group with deeper pockets staffed by veterans of Mitt Romney's presidential campaign.
I think that to start early and to start now, number one, raising money, but number two, reminding the voters why she's not the right candidate, I think that that's a really smart plan. I think that these efforts are going to make a difference.
Democrats also expect her to be dominant, and they want to influence her decision, too. The Ready for Hillary draft movement announced this morning their effort has more than 500,000 supporters signed up through Facebook, including prominent alumni from President Obama's history-making campaign.
People keep talking about her as being tired. I don't think she's tired. I think that she's determined to make a difference the best way she can. And so, you know, to the extent that all of these attack Hillary movements are burgeoning. If anything, that's going to energize her more.
Hillary Rosen is a prominent supporter of the former Secretary of State.
This woman, if she decides to run, is the most battle-tested candidate we will have ever seen. And so, you know, I just don't think those attacks are going to mean much.
But unlike 2008, the Democratic field for 2016 appears to be frozen as Vice President Joe Biden and Governors Martin O'Malley and Andrew Cuomo wait to see what Hillary Clinton decides to do.
Thank you so much.
Now, one of my Republican sources pointed out to me today that both of these Stop Hillary organizations are run and staffed almost entirely by men, and they might need to be careful what they do because they're attacking a woman who hasn't announced what she's up to yet. But to that end, I have a little carrot for you, Berman. Take a gander at what Mrs. Clinton tweeted on Friday evening. Seneca Falls, 165 years ago today, began a movement that remains the unfinished business of the 21st century. Now, of course, Seneca Falls refers to a very influential women's rights conference in New York in 1848, and of course the beginning of the push for the women's right to vote. Now, as you may know, women do have the right to vote. So what do you think that unfinished business is that she's referring to?
You know, she's leaving these crumbs all along the way that make you do more than speculate. Aaron McPike, thanks so much. Appreciate it. I want to bring down our political planner to talk more about this. Tracy Seppel, who served as an advisor at Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2008, and Jonathan Collegio, Republican strategist and the director of communications for American Crossroads. Tracy, let me start with you. Say she does run, hypothetically, of course, Hillary Clinton running, hypothetically. She's got a lot of experience. She's been in the public sphere for a long, long time, but there are a lot of things. These scandals, so-called scandals that go back a long, long time, all the way from Whitewater to Benghazi. Will she have to address this?
Hypothetically, she would be undeterred by any of the things that are being tossed around, crumbs, as I think you said a moment ago. So the notion of a hypothetical candidacy and a hypothetically scared Hillary Clinton is really inconceivable to me.
Scandals at this point don't scare her at all.
I think it's that scandals with air quotes that nobody's afraid of.
And Jonathan, let me ask you this. A spokesman for the Stop Hillary campaign, Garrett Markey, recently told Politico.com, he said, the reality is we can't wait until later, he says. We're announcing now because we intend to be active in stopping everything Hillary does. They're obviously putting out this video ad now because they want to get out there early. Is there a point to getting out there this early with something like this ad?
Well, everything is getting earlier every cycle. I mean, remember that Hillary Clinton, when she ran for president in 2008, made her announcement 9 months earlier than her husband did in 1991. So everything in campaigns is getting earlier. The other thing here is that it's pretty much in the Democratic field, Hillary Clinton and the Seven Dwarfs, right? There's nobody else in that field, and it's almost a foregone conclusion that if she is to run, she's going to be the nominee. And if you're in that position from the Republican side, why not get started now, at least with the research that you're going to end up deploying against her in 2016?
Is it enough, though? They're not going to be able to just run against Whitewater, are they?
I mean, I think that there's more than enough to talk about Hillary Clinton without bringing up the stuff from the 90s. I think that her ownership of the Obama economy is going to be a big issue in 2016 if she runs, as well as all of the unanswered questions that she still has with regard to Benghazi. She has been radio silent on that since that story broke last May.
One of the things that this ad does by bringing up the things that happened in the 90s is, of course, to remind us that Hillary Clinton was a very visible politician in the 90s. There have been these articles in various places, not necessarily about her age, but the fact that she's part of an older political generation. Do you think that's one thing that this ad points out, that she's part of a different generation, the past as opposed to the future, Tracy?
I don't know what they're attempting to do except to perhaps show their hand that they recognize the power that her potential candidacy would have and the position of weakness that the Republicans are really starting out with.
Will this get these Hillary supporters, including the people at this Ready for Hillary PAC, will this get them jazzed up?
Well, if you do the math with the Ready for Hillary PAC, something like every 9 seconds, another person is offering their support for that organization. I think that speaks for itself.
You've clearly done the math. Tracy Seffel, thank you so much. Jonathan Collegio, thanks for coming in. Really appreciate it. We'll have to wait and see, hypothetically, if he does run, hypothetically. Coming up, President Bush, George H.W. Bush, shaves his head. You'll want to see this in solidarity with a boy fighting for his life. We're going to show you the photo next. Stay with us.